All right. Good evening one more time. Here is a book. This book is called The Buddha Before Buddhism. It is a set of poems from the early Pali Canon, and this is, most of you know, I go through this roughly a monthly rotation, so I pick something out of this book roughly once a month. So we are now on the fourth of these poems. These are from the very early Pali Canon of the Theravadan Buddhist tradition. And oh goodness, this is a rare treat. Oh, thank you.
Well, I kind of let it sit here and
Okay,
but,
okay.
yeah, I thought I.
So that's for later,
Yeah.
not for now. Thank you.
Right.
And these are poems that are generally about not clinging to views and not holding on to sensual pleasures. That's the heart of these, which are core Buddhist practices. So what I will do is I will read this poem, which is not very long, and then I will read it again with some editorial gloss. And then I will stop recording and we will have a conversation together about it. That's how we shall proceed. So here goes the poem. The first two lines are said by a Brahmin, and then the Buddha takes over speaking and speaks for the rest of this poem afterwards. So the Brahmin says, I see the pure, the superior, and the healthful. It is by what one sees that a person is purified. And then the Buddha takes over. With such knowledge, having known the ultimate and observed the pure, one believes in knowledge. If people are purified by what they see, or if suffering is abandoned through knowledge, then someone with attachments is purified by something other. A belief like this is betrayed by how it's proclaimed. No true Brahmin speaks of purity in terms of something other, or in terms of virtue, religious observances, or what is seen, heard, or thought out. Merit and evil do not adhere to someone who has left behind what's grasped, who doesn't make up anything here. Abandoning one thing, people cling to another. Pursuing craving, they don't transcend their clinging. They let go, they grab. Like a monkey, they release one branch to grab another. People attached to concepts and undertaking religious observances experience highs and lows. Great sages, having known by means of knowledge, having understood the Dharma, don't experience highs and lows. They aren't foes to anything seen, heard, or thought. How in this world could one have assumptions about those who see in this way, whose conduct is open? They don't categorize, honor, or claim anything to be absolute purity. Having abandoned greed, the knot of attachment, they do not form any wish for anything in the world. True Brahmins who've crossed the boundaries wouldn't grasp anything they can know or see in the world, neither passionate for passion nor obsessed by dispassion. There is nothing here to grasp as superior. Okay, so what's that all mean? Here we go and unpack it. So the idea here, in India at that time, and still pretty much the case, there's the caste system. There are four castes, and the top caste, the muckety mucks, are the Brahmin caste, and they're the priestly caste. So they're held in the highest esteem, and they carry the sacred tablets, the sacred texts. They own all the rituals. It's they who preside over births and deaths, and you go to the temple if you want, if you are seeking intercession in some way, and they will intercede and pour ghee on gods and do some prayers for you and so on. So the Brahmins, that's who the Brahmins are. The Buddha totally counterculturally said, no, a Brahmin is somebody who's got a really good spiritual practice, somebody who can see clearly, somebody who is wise, somebody who is compassionate. That is what a Brahman is. So the Pali Canon is riddled with these things where Brahmins show up and they make statements, and the Buddha says, that's not a real Brahman. Here's a real Brahman. So that's the players. In most spiritual, well, no, I won't go there. In the way that the Brahman tradition is viewed from within Buddhism, and actually the way most Buddhist traditions work, unfortunately, there's this idea of purification of we are tainted, we are, in Christian language, we are sinful, and we have original sin, but there's some taints, there's some obstruction that prevents us seeing our true nature and being truly happy. And we find our true nature, we find release from the cycle of samsara, the cycle of birth and death, by purifying ourselves of those obstructions. So there's this idea of purification. And if we see what's pure, we know what we're headed for. We know what we're trying to achieve. But the Buddhist path is actually about letting stuff go. There is nothing at all. And if we find something and get stuck to it, that's a problem. Even purification, you get stuck to purification, is itself a problem. You're just holding on to something else. So that's the art. So the Brahman says, I see the pure, the superior, and the helpful. It is by what one sees that one is purified. You may have come across the word darshan in the Sanatana Dharma in Hinduism. And darshan is being in the presence of a holy one. And it's by looking on and being in that presence that one naturally imbues that pure nature of the Guru. So that's what this is pointing in. It's by what one sees, by being in that presence, that one is purified. The Buddha says, with such knowledge, having known the ultimate and observed the pure, one believes in knowledge. You're stuck up here, dude. It's a belief. It's a view. If people are purified by what they see, or if suffering is abandoned, this is, Buddha said, I teach two things. I teach dukkha and the end of dukkha. And that's it. Dukkha it's a word that doesn't translate very well. It's usually translated to suffering, because that's like when it first came across to English-speaking countries, that's how it was translated, and it's kind of stuck. But it also means, a broader sense, it means unsatisfactory, it means stress. It's got a broad spectrum. So all of this is dukkha. All of this is here, suffering. Or if suffering is abandoned, which is what this is about, through knowledge, then someone with attachments, suffering is precisely attachment. If I like this stick, I'm attached to it, don't take it from me, that can only cause suffering. Because sooner or later, I will lose it, somebody will take it, it will get broken, it will rot. I'll no longer be able to hold on to it because my hand stops working. It can only lead to suffering. So someone with attachments, so therefore definitionally suffering, is purified by another. I.e., you're just replacing one attachment with another. It's just a view. You're replacing one set of attachments with a different set of views, and you're holding on to your views. A belief like this is betrayed by how it's proclaimed, which is an important point for all of us, because we're all trying to end our dukkha all of the time. And if we grok this, we start saying, oh, I get it. I eat too much ice cream. It's one of my favorite tropes. So I'm just going to stop eating ice cream. That's cool. And if I'm really good at not eating ice cream, I'll let go of that suffering. And so I get this, but I'm now replacing that not eating ice cream with a very firm vow that I'm holding on to. And I'm kind of evangelizing this, and I'm carrying this around with me. It's just a different, if I'm not careful, it just becomes a different form of suffering. So it's betrayed by the way it's proclaimed. If we're talking about replacing a view with another view, it's very clear what's going on. If you look, no true Brahman speaks of purity in terms of something other. We start talking about something other, that's not true purification, or in terms of virtue, religious observances, or what's seen, heard, or thought out. The one with virtues is a difficult one, and it is difficult. Because it's saying, oh, so you mean I don't care if I do good or bad? In one sense, that's profoundly true, and in the deepest sense, it's profoundly true. Because if I have a determination of what's good or bad, I'm stuck on judgments. I'm stuck on my definitions. And if I think I'm doing good, there's consequences of doing good, which in this tradition usually around merit. Then I'm caught on that storm. What I need to do is I need to cultivate virtue to the extent that this system, this sack of skin and bones, just naturally behaves in a virtuous way. I've retrained it so it cannot conceive of behaving in a way that doesn't move towards the release of dukkha. And at that point, I can just let go of how it behaves, and it will behave in this virtuous way. So that's what this is pointing at. In the deepest sense, no Brahmin speaks of purity in terms of something other, or in terms even of virtue, of religious observances, of anything that comes in through the sense gates. Merit and evil do not adhere to somebody. That's what I'm just talking about. If you do good, there are positive consequences, but they don't land here. They're given away. They're other, there's nothing here to take those consequences, and they don't land here. Abandoning one thing, people cling to another. Pursuing craving, they don't transcend their clinging. These are sequential words. If you think about it, you like something, you see something and you like it. I like the sound of my bell. See something, you like it. Then you want it. You reach out, give me some more bell. And then you really start holding on to it. You cling to it and you take it home with you. And you take it when you don't go out for a walk with the dogs, right? So there's this sequential stuff. So pursuing their craving, they don't transcend their clinging. And clinging is the problem. That's the real holding on to things. It's not the wanting, it's the holding on that's the problem. It's the problem. So like a monkey, they release one branch to grasp another. People attached to concepts or perceptions in undertaking religious observances, which our meditation would be a religious observance for those purposes, experience highs and lows. And that's right? I mean, we all experience this. And some of them can be really, really subtle, but there's still highs and lows in them. Great sages, having known by means of knowledge, and he's playing with words here because we've talked about not getting caught on knowledge, but he's kind of throwing the word back. Having understood the Dharma, which is deeply, intuitively in the heart, understood the teachings, don't experience highs and lows. Because one who truly understands the Dharma realizes there's nobody here for things to stick to, and there's nothing out there to stick to it anyway. And that's not nihilistic. It's not nihilistic. It's just in terms of this is a remarkable thing. The whole system is utterly remarkable, but it's not separate from anything else. It truly isn't. There's I see cushions, I see Marseille, I see Beth. There's a subject and an object of vision, and there's the vision consciousness. They're not separate things. It's all one thing. It's all one thing. So having understood the Dharma, there's a realization there is nothing separate. There is nothing permanent. And it's extraordinary, but there's nobody here to hold on, and there's nothing to hold on to. They aren't foes to anything as how it's translated. They aren't remote from or separated from, are other ways of looking at it. Anything seen, heard, or thought. That's kind of what I just said. It's all connected. I, as a subject, can't separate myself from object. There's no I that is subject. It's separate. How in this world can one have assumptions about one who sees in this way, whose conduct is open, who's truly in this non-attached realm? The Buddha never called himself, I say never, that's wrong. The Buddha generally called himself Tathagata. Tathagata means thus come, thus gone. It's a play, the Tata Agata and Tata Gata, which are thus come and thus gone. So it's a play on words. And what that is pointing at when you say, who are you? And he said, Tathagata. It's not a name, it's not a person, it's a phenomenon that comes and a phenomenon that goes. There's an arising, it's here, and then it goes. Thus come, thus gone. And when asked, so does a Tathagata exist after a Tathagata dies? You'd say, that's not a well-formed question. I can't answer that. It's not helpful for me to try, but even if I were to try, I couldn't answer that in words because it is not a well-formed question. It's not well framed. Okay, well, maybe does a Tathagata not exist after they die? Same answer. Okay, it's one of these non-dual things, right? Does a Tathagata both exist and not exist? Sorry, but it's exactly the same answer. I can't even, that's badly framed. All right, let's try this one. Does a Tathagata neither exist nor not exist? Same answer. So these are all ways of trying to frame a view about the nature of existence. And this, what I think of as actually is the whole of existence. Just in the same is true for every one of you. You are the whole of existence. You've just done this silly thing based on obscured vision, done this silly thing of separating a little piece of it that you call a me from the whole of it, which actually is you. It's what we do. So this is, I put words around it and got into the trap in doing that. Once we start trying to parse this and describe it, we're creating views, creating frames of reference and stories, we're creating views. We're setting assumptions on these things. How in this world could one have assumptions about a Tathagata? If we really get what we're talking about here, how can we possibly try to establish views on this? The whole point is there's no conceivable way of holding views about this for it to make any sense. They don't categorize, what else am I scored here? Yeah, they don't categorize, honor, or claim anything to be absolute purity. Having abandoned greed is the same as craving, the knot of attachment, which is the same as clinging. So having abandoned greed, which is the knot that ties attachment. The knot is something that's used a lot. It's the idea that clinging, it's like a big ball. It's a knot. It's tied on. You can't get rid of it. And it's tangled. It's a mess. You can't see your way through it. They do not form any wish for anything in the world. Think about that for a minute. Sounds hard, feels hard, but if you think about the flip of it, how many things can you think of where you have a wish for something, and if you slow down and you think about it, maybe a promotion, it may be a Christmas present, it may be a nice new car, it may be a new dishwasher, it may be a book, it could be lots of different things. But all these things we wish for, it could be for somebody to say something nice to us, it could be for a friend who we've hurt or who's hurt us, to repair that damage. Wanting that is something that it's a weight. We're holding something, we've lifted something up and it's heavy, it's a burden. Just think what it would be like to really, truly and completely and unreservedly put that down and let it go and completely forget about it. It would lighten us, right? And there are so many things we can think of. The too many books on the shelf. I could actually get rid of half of my books and not worry about it. The too many plates in the kitchen. The tchotchkes that I picked up when I've been on my trips and they're sitting on these shelves. And why? And if somebody knocks it over and it breaks it, oh no, oh no. Well, really? If we could truly put all of these things down, it would be life would be so much lighter and so much freer. They do not form a wish for anything in the world. True freedom, true liberation is when we get to the point where we realize we can let go of everything. It doesn't mean we curl up and die. We just don't own anything. We totally shift our relationship with self, including this. Don't own anything, don't wish for anything. True Brahmins who've crossed the boundaries, the boundaries. So the most obvious boundary is the boundary between self and other, which is one we construct all the time. There are another set of boundaries that this is pointing at. It's the caste system in India. Different castes don't interact or have limited interactions with other castes. That applies to our society, which in many ways is a caste-ridden society. We've got different social classes, different races, different religions. People treat people differently. We've got this day, the political party divide is such a polarizing one. It's like if you ask somebody what feels like, they might feel it. You ask somebody a question, they might feel it's like a difficult question, and they say, "I'll get back to you." And they talk to their people and find out what the party line is before they talk to you. It's just we are so polarized around this political thing. In different parts of the country, there are kind of family feuds. My first wife was mountain people up in the mountains of North Carolina, and you really have like family feuds up there. So there are all of these boundaries that we create. And Brahmins were very conscious of these boundaries, many of these boundaries. True Brahmins who've crossed the boundaries wouldn't grasp anything they can know or see in the world, anything at all. There's nothing they would say, that there is nothing that's worth holding on to. They realize that holding on to anything can only cause dukkha. Holding on to things can never make us happy. It can never bring joy to self and other. And holding on to things always has a cost in the world. I can never truly be philanthropic in the world. I can never truly help others if I'm holding on to anything, because I'm keeping something away from others. To be truly compassionate, I cannot hold on to anything. So Brahmins who cross the boundaries wouldn't grasp anything they can know or see in the world, neither passionate for passion nor obsessed with dispassion. That's the other side of it. Don't get into this place where I'm holier than thou because I'm letting go of all this stuff, or I'm defining myself by what I'm not holding on to, because that's just another thing. There is nothing here to grasp as superior. That's the point. So let me stop recording.